And Steve. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, we can get those. It's highlighted, just press. There you go. Thanks.
Or it's not good enough for a quorum?
Nope, we got Maureen here, so we have. Four.
Isn't 4 enough?
There you go. Yes, we're good, sorry. Don't ask me hard questions at the end of the day. I know, I really thought.
So can we keep Maureen on the one screen there, or
Maureen.
not having a president?
She's muted in.
Sorry, I'm not going to put the video on just now because my I'm on my laptop. I'm just having trouble with my main computer.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Maureen. Thanks. Okay, well, let's and anything from David?
Not yet.
Give him a couple of minutes and then we will proceed. Oh, lovely hours. Good. Yeah. This. All right, this. Your own. I've done it before. Okay, we will call the meeting to order. Councillor Hawking is not examining at this point in time, so we're going to start anyway. We do have a quorum. So welcome everybody. Thank you, members of the public, for your attention. It's certainly nice to see you all. This is a special council meeting of Tuesday, September 20th, 2022. And we acknowledge with gratitude that we live, work, and play on the traditional and ceded territory of the Squamish Nation. Whose people have been stewards of these lands, Nuglawakwam, and the waters surrounding at Catsum for millenniums. Approval of the agenda. Anything we have some late items. Everybody got those? Okay, thank you. And anything else on the agenda? Anybody want to add anything or questions on there? If not, approve the agenda by consensus. And we'll move on to public comments. Hope.
First, we have. Gina. Okay, want me to sit here? You can come sit here if you like. And supporting the development variance for 1724 Road.
Welcome. Thank you. Nice to be here. My name, first of all, is Gina Lararowich. This is my husband, Tony Lararowich. It's a mouthful. So we have bought at 1724 Bowen Bay Road about a year ago, over a year ago. We are absolutely beyond excited to move here full time. A little backstory. I grew up in Eagle Harbor. You know, kind of coming home. We've raised our kids in Deep Cove, empty nesters now, found this beautiful piece of property that's a dream piece of property for us. We are building our dream home and hope to have our grandkids here for years to come. So we will be full timers as soon as we can build our house with your blessing. The house that we are wanting to build in the particular place is for the variance that we're applying for, as the original house that was there for about over 50 years, the big old pirate's house that was there right to the left of, we're on Bowen Bay, so if you're facing the water, right to the left, for those of you that don't know. And there's the dock, the Bowen Bay Marina, which is the Paisley Island group. They have their dock and they have their parking lot right next to ours. So we've got that property running right down beside it. And they have turned out to be fantastic, by the way, the Paisley Island group. Absolutely great with everything with us. And in fact, as part of our purchase, they allowed us the use of their dock. So I don't think they want a dock in front. We don't want to build a dock. So they took up that foreshore. And we're like, we don't want to build a dock. So it's a perfect, we get a water view and we're totally blessed with that. So where the original house was, because we just tore it down with our permit, we just want to nestle it back. So we're going back. We're not asking to come forward. We are asking to go back, just not all the way back, because there's this beautiful rock. You know, it's sort of flat to the ocean. It was too close to the ocean as far as I was concerned for my personal comfort. So back in this beautiful rock, and we just want to, we've got, you know, my old buddy, Mike Lightbody from childhood friend, has designed this absolutely gorgeous house. And I don't want to ruin any of the natural environment. We just want to build it. I'm like, Mike, could you put windows so this rock shows, you know, but we have to take out a little bit of it in order for it to fit properly with setbacks and everything. But we just need it to come back a bit, but not all the way back up on the hill. So all the way back up on the hill is this beautiful natural hill that goes up to our neighbors, the Bennetts, and then our other neighbor, Matt Dean, who has now literally become family. He is such a good human being and helping us with everything, but we'll literally go up and block his house if we have to go where the setbacks are, which is, I believe, 45 feet back or something. So we'd be up on this rock, and then we'd have to blast. And then it would be, I mean, from the little bit that we got quoted, that would be like $200,000 worth of blasting. And this beautiful hill that goes up, that's moss covered and ferns, and another rock that goes up here. And it's just like, where would we put, I mean, I said, we want Mike to build us a two-story rancher, but we just want a low two-story, no basement or anything, so we won't block anybody's view. So it's kind of like top level and then the bottom level down on the ocean part. So you enter up off the cliff and then go down. So we're not going way, way up high. It's not a huge house. I mean, it's, you know, sorry, that's a bit privileged. It's about 3,500 square feet, but we're not here to build this monstrosity of a 20,000 square foot home or anything. We just want to build a really beautiful two-story rancher. We can live upstairs into our old age. We're going to try to build it so we can live our years out in this upstairs and then have the downstairs for grandkids and stuff. So really that's where it is. If we have to go back there, we have to do a ton of blasting, which we really can't afford. And it will ruin all of this gorgeous rock. I don't even know how we would design the house, quite frankly. It would sit way up on top of this hill and block everybody. So very fortunate to have all three of our neighbors. I sent in letters. So Natasha has the letters from the three setback neighbors who have all been extremely in our favor. They wrote letters to you guys to say we have absolutely no problem. We sent them the drawings. They all looked at the drawings and no problem. So that's about it. I've gone to all of our neighbors. I wrote a whole little, hi, this is who we are. Got some wonderful responses back from them, really knocked on doors, had some great conversations with their neighbors. So in the end, whatever your decision is, we just feel extremely blessed to be here. Like you've all chosen to live here, and in this whole journey, we have discovered we have the best neighbors ever. So it's a real win for us. So we hope that you will take into consideration our variance.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
Next, we have Bob Sims regarding 404 Venture Road.
Hello.
On July 11th, 2022, the council came together to not approve the variance at 404 Venture unanimously, and each gave a very good reason and salient thought to this question of a very crowded neighborhood and variances that were much too close to the setback. Each counselor gave the reasons, and these have been, ever since this process started, ignored by the owners, the architect, the builders, and as a result, what we have is a structure that's flat against the neighbor's fence. For over 15 years, these infractions have been violated at this property. With a variance, no setback, no height requirements will be required on that property. Why have our OCP and development applications been ignored? Why? Has the municipal manager sent a letter with fines and penalties for not removing the offending structure? What response did the municipal manager get, or what reaction did he get from that owner for a further refusal? Another refusal was in, say, 16 years that this building has been going on. When will the OCP be brought in? When this was a poor idea in the first place? It still is. Demolish the structure as it should have been done years ago. Enforce this illegal building sanction, which has been going on for a decade and a half. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Susan Hogan regarding.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for seeing me. Appreciate it. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I just want to make a couple of points concerning the non-conforming issues on my property. First, and most important, I would like to offer a possible solution regarding the yoga studio. My suggestion is that we put a covenant on the title of the property saying that the owners could never use the studio, the new owners, because the house is for sale. The new owners could never use the studio as a rental or a B&B. And I also understand the neighbors to the west are concerned about overlook from the single window that faces the back corner of the yard. So and last, we did have more than 2 accessory buildings on the property. And I've since taken down the woodshed. And the 2 smaller buildings at the back, I can attach them and make them a building. So that would mean that I will be in compliance with just 2 outdoor buildings, buildings on the property. That's really all. I wasn't going to go over the letter that I already sent you because I know you already have that information, so you can do that again. I guess it's in summary, I would just like to say that I would never be in this predicament if it went to my current situation. In the last 2 years, I've lost my husband and my daughter. to long-term care. And that's why I have to sell our home. The expenses to keep them both are unsustainable. So I'm selling the house. We've lived here for 22 years and it's breaking my heart to have to do this, but I have to keep them too. So this is just a time of unimaginable stress, emotional, physical, and financial. And I'm just hoping that you see this offer as a viable solution. That's it.
All right, thank you, Susan.
That's all for public comments.
All right. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Everybody's been through that. Does anybody have any issues that they would like to pull for clarification? Maureen? She's still with us?
Maureen, do you have any concerns with the consent agenda? Hearing none?
Hearing none, yeah, just about it.
There.
Okay, so the recommendation is that council approve the items as outlined in September 19, 2022 consent agenda, and I will.
Could you hold on a moment, Gary?
Oh, yeah, sure.
I just got my computer up and running. Could we pull item 3.4 from the consent agenda?
Okay.
It's just a small point.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay, don't go away. So as the end of that, I'm just going to approve it by consensus, but the council approve the outlines as the items as outlined in the September 19, 2022 consent agenda as amended now. And with that, we will move on to the items that were pulled, and go ahead, Maureen.
With 3.4, there's a reference in the letter to the route crossing Crown land and private land. And it wasn't clear to me what the private land was that was being referred to. Is it simply the Camp Bowen?
Okay, stand by. Hope you know anything about that?
I don't have confirmation on that, but I can definitely reach out to Phil Osborne, the president of the Bowen Trail Society, to confirm that. It has the trail, the Handloggers Trail does frequently cross that property, Camp Bowen property. So it may be that property, it may be others, but they do get permission from private property owners. But I'm happy to follow up with Phil on that.
We could also put in the letter that as long as everybody is,
Yeah, absolutely.
all the adjacent properties are in favor. How about that, Maureen?
That sounds good. I just wanted to make sure we weren't writing a letter in support of something that a private landowner was going to object to.
Okay, thank you very much. What is the date of this? Does anybody, I didn't see any date in it.
Not until 2023.
I understand that part of it. There was a bit of a typo there, but what's the
I don't
time?
think I'm not sure. It doesn't say in the letter.
How many people are involved?
Don't have that information either. It's
Anyway, I agree with it in principle. I think it's going to be great, but so let's put that caveat in the letter there.
Yep.
So that council authorized letter to be sent in support of the Bowen Island Trail Society application and bidding for the 2023 NACAC Mountain Trail Running Championship by the Bowen Island Trail Society, Bowen Island Handloggers Half Marathon Association.
And
consideration.
the confirmation be obtained that the private land is agreed to the use of the land.
Yeah, I think something like that. Hopefully it's under right. You can do the wordsmithing in that. So I'll move that. Second.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rob. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Wonderful, thank you. And, okay, we'll move on to delegations. Seaman and Lisa Arthur, representatives of the residents of South Bowen, read the Bowen Island Properties Limited Temporary Use Permit Application TVP 2022-0166. Step right up, pull another chair up there, Wayne, if want Lisa to come up there with you.
Actually, tonight, trying to meet the deadlines for the agenda, we had spoken, we discussed both that there would be possibly 2 additional speakers.
Okay,
Scott Robarts is here tonight, and he will speak on behalf also of Karen Luder,
okay.
who took seriously ill earlier today.
Go ahead then, Wayne, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, council member, I speak on behalf of many residents in the South Bowen community who oppose issuance of temporary use permit number 2022-0166. Thank you for the opportunity to address this critical issue. For the benefit of all Bowen, many believe this important matter can be and should be addressed in a public hearing. Our collective position is firm. It is consistent and united. We totally oppose, as should this municipality, any thought or idea to take residential zone property and allow it to be used for industrial or mixed use purpose. We ask that you please consider there are other areas on Bowen Island specified for this type of intended purpose. Countless municipalities and residents across our country rely upon zoning codes and regulations to assure proper governance and permitted land use within their boundaries. To implement any measure to allow industrial use on residential property flies in the face set forth in the rules, the ordinances, the codes, and zoning. Collectively, they establish the rules of the road and often legal precedent that regulate the governance of that land by those to whom it has been entrusted to secure. Any municipality that chooses to act contrary is in violation of that code and the trust bestowed upon them by their constituents to whom they were elected to serve. For the residential communities of Bowen Island, consider the resulting consequences. Industrial manufacturing, commercial trucking, traffic, safety concerns, noise pollution, transient work camps. Really? These are real issues that jeopardize the public's serenity, safety, and security. If common sense and common decency are to prevail, these consequences cannot be overlooked. To do so reflects total disregard for those who live in these communities. Let us be clear, we are not anti-development. We support well-planned communities. We wish to do so into the future. We understand that land and housing development poses its own set of challenges as any business. However, the developer has not earned our vote of confidence over years of past actions on Bowen Island. We feel the developer has not shown to be a good steward of land and clearly is not doing so by requesting industrial manufacturing on residential land. It is simply not a conforming use. Council needs to be accountable and cannot be complicit in its decision. This is a precedent-setting decision. The message needs to be clear that Bowen Island residential neighborhoods must be protected. There are alternative designated areas on Bowen Island that need to be home for such a plan and not in residential neighborhoods. This summarizes our position. With respect for those of us present and with these facts in mind, the residents of South Bowen implore you, please do not issue this permit request. For more specific details, I direct your attention to my submitted personal letter, those of many others, and the presentations of other residents who will speak tonight. Shoreline Estates resident Karen Mutter had hoped to speak specifically to the policies that apply, but due to illness, she is unable to make presentation tonight. Scott Robarts will speak on her behalf, and copies of her presentation will be made available following. In closing, I would like to reference salient findings stated on the BIM Community Economic Development webpage from a Sustainable Local Economic Development Survey. I quote, Bowen Island residents identified the following trades and industrial key challenges. Number one, industrial activities can conflict with other land uses and may have environmental impacts. And number two, the island market is too small to support any industrial sector, and ample industrial land exists nearby on the mainland. And those surveyed also identified the following trades and industrial key opportunity. Create one or more light industrial areas separate from residential areas and schools. End quote. These findings speak for themselves. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Wayne.
Mayor and Council, as Wayne had mentioned, I'm reading this letter on behalf of Karen and Brent Mooter, residents of Shoreline Estates, which should be noted as immediately below the subject area. As part of due diligence, a prospective property owner in an emerging development would likely consult an OCP. The Bowen Island Municipality OCP 2011 indicates Cowan Point lands are designated as rural residential. Cowan Point CBA material points policy 145-151 makes no mention of an intention to support anything other than residential, commercial, recreational, and parks. Specifically, policy 150. Policy 150 road standards will be developed that will provide for narrow, winding, country-style roads that result in safe and aesthetically pleasing roads, which will fit the character of Bowen Island. The standards will address such issues as pavement and right-of-way width, grades, design speeds, surface treatment, pedestrian and cyclist movements, and creek crossings. As new property owners and full-time residents of Cowan Point CBA, we purchased our lot and built our house predicated on the OCP designation of rural residential. We are deeply aligned with the Cowan Point CBA, being inclusive in developing a diverse type of dwelling and services that fosters a sense of community. OCP Objective 65. As physically active members of an emerging multi-generational community, we are among many who access narrow and windy Seymour Bay Drive as a walking path. Bowen Island Municipality has actively enabled the use of Seymour Bay Drive as a walking path through formal points of access along Cowan Point Road and Seymour Bay Drive. Notwithstanding current trade traffic tolerated to support limited residential development, additional industrial traffic along Seymour Bay Drive profoundly increases the risks of safety to community members accessing Seymour Bay Drive on foot or on bike. Committed road standard policy 150 of narrow winding country style roads are not amenable to industrial use. Absence of sightlines around multiple curves substantially increases risk of vehicle pedestrian collision. There are a large volume of deer along Seymour Bay Drive, substantially increasing the risk of roadkill events. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me here to speak tonight. I haven't done this before, so I'm a bit nervous. But my focus is mainly on the environment, environmental impact that the TUP would have on the environment. And not to mention the already negative environmental impact that BIP has had at Seymour Bay. So I trust that you read my email. Ready? So That's what I'm focusing on. So currently we can walk at Seymour Bay. A lot of people stroll around there. 2 weeks ago, I came across a pile of building material debris, which includes styrofoam and fiberglass, and not to mention a torn up fisheries and oceans chart that was found on the property, just evidence that I don't know how you treat that. Styrofoam, fiberglass, which are actually hazardous building materials. There was a big pile of debris. And this pile of debris is exactly where two water creeks come together on lot 2448. So if you can look at this, it's where both of those watersheds converge, and it's just down from where they're already laying, looks like they're already clearing the property for this light manufacturing facility, which hasn't yet been approved, but it's already, looks like they're laying the groundwork for. So here at that very spot on lot 2448 is evidence of what to me are not good management practices. Lot 2448, directly down from, oh, of course, styrofoam can be blown into creeks by the wind. It can travel down, filled with water. So
Sorry,
Yes,
so can you just pass those around?
Certainly. it includes styrene, which is carcinogenic. So animals, birds, gets into the ocean. And I've got pictures from September 12th of humpbacks in Seymour Bay. And in June, there were orcas in Seymour Bay. So there's a lot of wildlife that we want to protect
Absolutely.
directly downhill. So that's, to me, is evidence of management practices. There's evidence all over other lots at Seymour Bay of building material debris just strewn and been left for the last decade. Apparently just cleaned up within the last week, maybe. There's also, if you were to look at Google Maps and you were to look at Seymour Bay, it's like cleared. If you look at that and you compare it even Snug Cove or anywhere else on the island that has residential districts or lots that have been built, nowhere else on the island has the land been cleared in the manner that it's been cleared at Seymour Bay. And there aren't even houses on a lot of these lots. And it's been like this for the last decade that I know of. So when you remove all the natural lands and that ecosystem, what you're left with is gorse. And that is exactly what's flourishing at Seymour Bay. It's spreading, it's invading everywhere. Of course, southeast winds are blowing it directly uphill. If you've read about gorse, you know that the plant contains a fuel, which when caught, when it catches fire, it just, and apparently there's a town in Oregon that's been wiped out twice by a gorse fire. And you need to remove gorse properly. It was attempted by BIP a few years ago incorrectly. And you need to remove it when it's not in flower, and there they were trying to remove it when it's in flower. And of course, it's come back and flourished more than ever. There's acres and acres of it. And the other thing is that they've cleared the land. There's cedar trees that are remaining, but they're dying because when you take all the undergrowth out and the tree is there standing by itself with no shade and the sun's, it's on the south side, it's beating down, these trees are dying. So you basically subject acres of what was natural lands to the ecological areas, to what, I don't know. So these are not good management practices. I don't have faith that good management practices will be abided by. And BID wants to continue the temporary use permit even beyond 3 years if good management practices have been exhibited, but they already have not been exhibited. So that is my concern, and I understand that there's a conservation policy that's being drafted up and being reviewed, and all of this is in contravention of those policies. So that's my. Yeah,
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Okay, so we're gonna go into business horizon. So sorry, we're back. You're hitting the door.
I'm now back as myself. Regards residents in Bay Drive. Mayor and council, I wish to oppose this proposal for a temporary use permit 2022-0166 for the following reason. The first one is the Bowen municipality OCP states that County Point lands are zoned rural residential. Prior to this proposal by Bowen Properties, there have been no mention of any change to a light industrial building at County Point. My wife and I moved to Bowen Island this past April, and we came here from North Vancouver, and we absolutely love it. We love where we live, we love the community. But we bought our home with the understanding that the area would remain residentially zoned, and there would not be any light industry in the area. And this is concerning to us. It's also concerning to me, and should be to others, I think, that if the municipality allows this rezoning properties from residential light industrial like this with such poor public consultation by the developer, and with no studies, no traffic impact study, environmental study submitted for consideration, I think that's a dangerous precedent, and not just for County Point. I think for the rest of Bowen Island. So I think there needs to be better consideration of the issues at hand. The next point is safety. Some of the other speakers have spoken to as well. Seymour Bay Drive is a narrow road with many blind hills, many blind corners. Every day I observe people using the road to walk the pets, jogging, biking, skateboarding. I've even seen horses and riders on the road, and I saw actually a near miss with those once with a large truck going to one of the building sites. Deer are also on or near the road nearly all day long, and sometimes in the early evening there's too many to count. Policy 150 of the OCP states that roads within County Point comprehensive development area will be, quote, narrow, winding country style roads that result in safe and aesthetically pleasing roads which fit the character of Bowen Island. Narrow, winding country style roads are no place for industrial traffic. There will be injuries to people and pets and animals if this proposal is allowed to go forward. It's only a matter of time. I see it myself because I'm a regular user of Seymour Bay Drive. And my final point is that this temporary use permit is not going to be so temporary. The developer is applying for this permit, but I would argue that the developer has no intention of this operation to be temporary. And I'll read from this letter that I actually did not receive in the mail. I picked it up at the South Bowen Community Association AGM. And so this was not distributed to me, but I did get my hands on it. So quoting here, direct quote, if the permit for the construction facility is granted, Bowen Island Properties projects that with the good management practice it would exhibit, this facility would integrate seamlessly into the community for years to come. And further on down below, it says, it would not make sense for BIP to make such a proposal as a sizable investment only to mismanage its operation. So I think this shows that the temporary use permit is not really temporary. So those are my main points, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Scott. Any more? Thank you. I will move on to 5.1 Conservation Development Policy. Daniel Martin, Manager of Planning and Development.
Just clarify, you do realize that we're not considering the TUP.
Yes.
Well, we were.
This is the only opportunity themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are. You think about
Most people leave if they don't have an item on the agenda. That's why.
welcome to stay.
We'd love to have you all share.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All due respect to the
Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Daniel, over to you.
Thank you, Troy Anderson. Tonight I am presenting the Conservation Development Policy. So this last came before council at the July 25th meeting. And at that point, council directed staff to make some amendments to the policy and defer consideration to the September 26th regular council meeting. So we ended up bringing it a week early ready. But the key change to the policy is this guideline section. So this council will recall that at the previous council meeting, we had a public comment speak about the need for essentially flexibility or ability of council to balance this policy with other municipal policies and targets. And so what staff have included is that line at the bottom. So we had talked during that last meeting about adding it as a fourth bullet point. And instead of drafting, we thought it made more sense to be separate from the bullet point bylaw or what the policy would aim to provide, but make clear at the end of it that council may consider this policy in balance with targets and policies. So the report talks about, you know, the scenario of somebody providing a greater amount of affordable housing than is required in our policy, but maybe the trade-off from that is that they're providing a smaller target area, and that's something that is clear that council can consider that if they feel that that's appropriate for the development of in this stage. So based on that, council or staff recommend that council adopt the policy as presented at this council meeting.
Right. Any further discussion? Allison?
So I still don't know why we're talking about the guiding official community plan policies when everything was their objectives and policies that are listed. I'm still having trouble with the wording of achieve a goal and from the guidelines, and then one of the other words. It doesn't seem wherever it's referring to the 50%, it's doesn't really seem to allow for the caveat you put in at the bottom, but may consider the provision of this policy in balance with the provision of other municipal targets and policies. So
And there's also that the one about being deemed appropriate by council.
well,
Council has a final decision on how it's going to be established.
they have the final decision on the protection methods, not the quantum. It's the right wording of quantum. Any principle, corporation of principles with a goal at a minimum of 50%. And then up above it says to achieve a goal of nature and that. And then it says council may consider the provision of this policy in balance with provision I would have said the council would reduce the goal or not meet the goal if it meets other municipal targets and policies. And just to clarify, remind me, the 3 definitions of cluster development and ESAs and green space are quoted word for word from the OCP, correct? And I still have a problem with referring to conservation, even principles of conservation development, when you only have a definition of conservation, and there's no word of principles in that definition. So I'm not opposed to following the idea of cluster development and having, green space dedication and things, but I'm just a little concerned about the matter of fact of the way it's worded.
Is there an easy fix to that, Allison, or not? Okay. Any further comments? Maureen?
Yeah, I can see Councillor Morris's concerns, but for the most part, I'm happy with the revisions to the conservation development policy. The one thing that I would suggest, Daniel, is in the 3rd bullet point, the means by which the protection is to be provided. I wonder if the or other means could be changed to and or other means to allow for the bundling of the 3. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And with Councillor Morris's point regarding the policy objective and achieve a goal of nature needs half, I wonder if changing that to aim for the goal of nature needs half, does that work any better for you, Allison? Aim for the goal of nature needs half.
That helps, but it still doesn't help with the wording in the guideline.
So that's in the new revision struct portion.
There we go. Yeah, and the other with the goal that a minimum of, that's very definite. And I don't think the wording council may consider the provision of this policy. A lot really makes it clear that you can only take 20% if you achieve other goals.
Again, if we change that to aiming for a goal,
That only solves that clause, it doesn't solve the next one.
well, I don't have any ready solutions or suggestions for that, so I'm going to leave my suggestions with that suggested change to the policy of aiming for a goal the nature needs half and the and or other means, and I'm otherwise satisfied with this.
Would you be happy to take that minimum out of there? The goal?
Well, that's too definitive, but the wording council may consider the provision of this policy in balance with provision of other municipal targets and policies is not clear. It doesn't specifically say the council may reduce the amount of protected area if the rezoning meets other municipal targets. So, but there is guideline.
That is the intent, isn't it, Daniel?
Well, yeah, but you're going to be dealing with different people over the years, and they're going to argue that the intent is 50 and not that wasn't intended to what would go below it.
But I think the discussion we had was about nuancing that 50%, and if you want to take minimum of it, that's fine too, because it's a little harsh. But 50% is a goal, but if there's other considerations, that 50% can be reduced this way it's meant to read.
Well, meant to read and reading that way are two very different things.
Could I ask Daniel, and I mean, I did stumble a bit over the may consider the provision of this policy. What exactly does that mean? If you were explaining in plain language to somebody who was puzzled by that, how would you explain it?
I mean, I would explain it in terms of balance, that council is balancing different targets. And so in balancing, you know, this policy and the affordable housing policy, or even the economic development policy, the council has to balance on policy and the different OCP objectives.
Okay. I wonder if you took out the provision, does that do it? Council may consider this policy in balance with other municipal targets and policies. Does that do it?
Would the word application be appropriate? Council may consider the application of this policy with in balance with other targets and policies.
That works for me.
Just a quick question to Daniel. Are we watering down this policy by doing that, or is it still?
I mean, I think in my mind, I think it just incorporates the flexibility. I think it's there in a council policy. So it's still stating the goal of having 50% or more, like we've had some rezonings where it is more impactful and it's protected. But it's recognizing that it is a balance in it. So there may be cases where there is less, and then to some extent, I think the policy, the language of the policy is there, and then to some extent, the test is then how it's applied in rezoning cases. So I mean, currently people are aware when they apply of like how council has sought, you know, parkland dedication as part of the rezoning, and then as we see, you know, this policy being adopted, and then applicants will see how council considers it in future applications. I mean, that weighs a big part of it too.
It also depends how big the development is. I mean, it could be a need for development or something like that, and it's going to be considerable. It's a smaller, probably not the same.
I guess at the end of the day, it's going to be council that's going to have a final say. And if they want to apply the policy for 50% or whatever, they can do that. There's nothing that, oh, well, I'm going to go to 40 or whatever because I'm doing some housing thing. Council could say, no, you're doing the 50. Okay, thanks.
I guess my other hang up is the definition of conservation development, which means the implementation of land development that seeks to protect biodiversity, farmland, scenic landscape, historic and cultural resources. So historic and cultural resources and farmland are not environmentally sensitive areas.
No, economically,
And they're not nature needs half areas.
No, but then the guidelines themselves say priority is to be given to the protection of any identified environmentally sensitive areas. So it's clear that that's the priority of the 50%, but then, you know, given that depends what site it is in terms of what is deemed.
But then you've got this incorporation of conservation development principles with a goal that a minimum of 50% of the total land subject to the rezoning application is protected from further development. Well, if it's already got historic and cultural resources on it, and it's farmland, and that's not counted as part of the 50%.
it will be part of 50%.
In that definition. And you don't have, then you've only got 25% that might be left to be housing on it. So
this sits in front of us now for the very reason that last time we were struggling with the word, isn't. And there's always an issue when you're trying to look at a smaller part of a fairly complex whole. And then by rewording the smaller part, you're left with whatever might fall out, the unintended consequences on the larger, the total complete document. It's a little fault, Daniel, and I have to say to do it this way is extremely taxing. And I'm just worrying that we're writing something that when we look at it in its entirety, we say, really? That's what we wrote. How did we do that? Well, we did it because we're looking at little parts at a time, part of the bigger whole. think as the same difficulties we found with good intention. The finding now. I'm a little concerned. Yes, we may do a patch here, right? But how does it affect the rest of the document? I shudder to think that our office would approach it. So I don't know which is the best way to handle this. Take it back, look at it again in its entirety, and make sure that take the recommendations today and transplant those, make sure the whole thing sits well and comfortably within the shell. But at the moment, I'm far from convinced it does that. And I think the points that Councillor Morse made are really valid. It concerns me that we're going to do it part and parcel this way. So, I mean, I'll be guided. I don't want to hold this thing up, but I'm really not very comfortable about our approach to it. Thank you for what it's like there, but I think it's I can't use the word expression I'd like to do with back to front is maybe what I'm trying to say. Like,
I've got my hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody that we've been batting this around for 4 years. This came up in the election period in 2018. Daniel's been working on it really hard with multiple committees. Over that time, we've had extensive discussion at council. If we don't wrap this up, it's not going to get wrapped up. So I'm really concerned about that.
Now, I tend to agree. What have you got for changes, Hope?
2 changes.
Okay.
The first to the guidelines, 3rd bullet.
Yeah.
Here I go. And including and before or, so and or other means deemed appropriate by council. That was suggested by Councilor Nicholson. And then another change in the sentence, council may consider, instead of replacing provision with application, so council may consider the application of this policy in balance with the provision of other municipal targets and policies.
Okay.
I would take out the second provision and hope it's not necessary.
Yeah.
Okay, council may consider the application of this policy in balance with other municipal targets and policies.
Yeah.
I don't mind.
But did you like aim for a goal? Aim for rather than achieve a goal, huh?
Yeah, that might work also. And just on this topic of like what I'm reading here for the conservation development, this is achieved by identifying permanently protecting environmentally sensitive areas and green spaces and historical and cultural resources while between Heyman. So that in my mind says that those will be covered as part of the 50%.
Yes, I mean, that's my reading. Too.
Yeah, that's the way I read it. I don't.
Examples.
That's so Allison, that thing about going down to 25%.
Well, it says 50% with a goal, a minimum of 50% of the total land subject to rezoning is protected from further development. So if we've got a 1 acre piece of 10,000 acre piece of property.
Yeah.
And 500 of those acres are in farmland.
Yeah, then that's the 500 acres.
That's not environmentally sensitive areas. And our 25% of it is cultural buildings. And you want.
And that's not included, Daniel?
That's not, they're not environmentally sensitive areas either. They're already developed.
Well, okay, but if there's farmland or cultural area there, would that not be included in the?
That would be included in the, if that's permanently protected, that would be included in the, in the calculation of how much the land is being protected under this policy.
Yeah, that's what I would think.
It says protected from further development.
Correct, but that would be part of the 50%.
But when it's already developed.
Also,
Can't protect it.
no, it's farmlands. You can't put houses on it.
I'm sorry, my hearing was writing legislation doesn't cut it.
Okay, so is there any further discussion, Maureen? And did we get that last point of,
Not from me with those 3 amendments.
yeah, did you get the third one?
With the one more. So that, in the first point, oh, sorry. The second point, the incorporating to full concentration development within the wording was aim for a goal of.
Well, the first line, you say achieve a goal of, and then down under the second bullet, you're saying with the goal that a minimum of. So,
Did you want to take the minimum?
I think it's a minimum of there to start with.
It just starts again watering down, right? Like aiming for a goal is like we're aiming for 1 million goals out there right now. It's like, I do like a bit, I want to have a bit of teeth in there so it doesn't just become a document that just sort of, we're aiming for this, we're aiming for 0 emissions, but aiming is one thing, achieving is something different, right?
Well,
You got to do things to achieve something, you don't have to do anything to aim. So I mean, I like the original achieve that, and I'm okay with the changes that are made. And I agree with Maureen that we need to move this forward. Like the spinning and rewriting it is, in my opinion, so I would actually like to keep the original language mostly, and I don't mind the changes that, well, just a minor one, like the end or something like that.
so what would you do if it was a brownfield rezoning?
What do you mean? What would I do?
I'm not, I've talked to people about it in terms of who have, potential rezoning applications, and it gets trickier. It's, a 1 acre site where the majority of the site is already developed. It has a driveway that comes in and a septic field and a well and a house, right? And in that case, it may be that, okay, this, that nothing is being protected or nothing,
No.
because it becomes a point of, we say, well, this 10 square feet and this 10 square feet, it sort of,
Well,
but I think, that's something council would have to consider and say, okay, in this case, the rezoning is going ahead and it's meeting affordable housing targets, and so we're considering it in balance with other targets, and that it won't be applicable to that rezoning.
I don't think this would apply to 1 acre lot. Really?
That's not what it says.
Well, it might,
But you gotta have some common sense. Kristen?
I think that needs direction, whether the intent of council is to create a very prescriptive policy or whether it's more of an overarching kind of guiding policy, because I think we're getting conflicting perspectives here on what the intent of the.
I think Kristen's point is really, really good.
Yeah.
And the intent with this policy was to have a guiding document more so than a strictly prescriptive document, if I remember correctly. Is that, sorry, that's my cat. Is that the goal? Daniel?
Daniel, yeah.
I guess I was thinking this document, it's a policy document to guide applications for rezoning, so people can see what council's goal is to achieve in a rezoning. So it's guiding in a sense. The policy has flexibility in it, but I think it can be aspirational as well. Like if the objective is to achieve a goal of each path, but then the guidelines say, well, we're aiming for that goal. It's appropriate in the policy. The objective overall is like, what's the big picture? What are we trying to do? And then the guidelines themselves show that there's flexibility, and council's trying to achieve this goal, but trying to achieve other goals too, and they may be.
Well, I'm sorry, but I think from the mayor, maybe at this stage, is it prescriptive or is it general? Well, I'd be very grateful.
I think it should be general.
I'd be rather grateful at this stage, since we've been asked to approve it, if someone could make up their mind. But of course, that's what we don't have at the moment. I don't think this document is fit for purpose as it stands right now. And I won't be passing until I got a much clearer view of the intention and what is and what is not intended. And it's frustrating that we've battered it backwards and forwards, but the fact that we want to get it done is not a reason in and of itself if the document isn't fit, and it isn't fit. And just listening to the dialogue here, being also play it back, I think it's self-evident.
Well, my issue with this is that you're absolutely right, Michael, that it's the differences between being prescriptive and being a general guideline. I think we want to make it a guideline. I don't think we want to make it prescriptive. Oh,
May I make a suggestion?
yes, please.
This was circulated by Daniel last week to go
Yeah.
over these changes.
Yeah.
To flag them early on so that we could bring them to this meeting. I'm not sure this is a productive use of our time. Perhaps we council would like to defer it to its next meeting.
October 11th.
October 11th, and that way they can provide comments in writing to Daniel and we can have it more readily available for this meeting.
Thank you. I would certainly, if that was an approach, second that. Doesn't need to be a motion, but that's exactly how I see it going.
I just, if we don't have some direction before the next meeting, then it's going to be ended up being the same thing. Yeah. Just even more frustrating.
Do we defer it then? Or
We defer to October the 11th.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Opposed?
I'm opposed.
I'm opposed to. I think we should make the decision.
Yeah.
I think that means the referral fails, does it not?
Yeah, the
Yes, it
motion
is,
is
yes.
defeated.
So, you got those 4 changes?
3 changes.
Yeah.
In light of Rob's comments and also Daniel's comments about the need for the document to be aspirational, which does not mean that it is prescriptive, I would suggest not moving forward with the first suggested amendment to that, to the opening, and to leave it as achievable.
Did we lose you?
She doesn't want to
Maureen?
achieve.
Of nature neutral.
Okay, we lost you there for a second. You'll have to go.
I was suggesting dropping the First Amendment and keeping the achieve a goal of nature neutral.
So I'll move that.
We don't need to move.
We don't
Yeah.
have to move it.
Not on the table yet.
Okay,
So just to recap. The 2 amendments would be to the guidelines, 3rd bullet, putting in and or other means. In the 2nd sentence, and deleting provision of and replacing application of, and then deleting the second use of the word provision.
Mhm.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on that? Okay, I'll ask a question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, motion passes. Ouch. Okay.
Thought that was gonna be easy.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the bylaws, which is the site alteration bylaw number 568, 2022, Daniel Martin, Manager of Planning and Development. And there is an on-table item there from the Minister, Monroe, and who is it? Minister of Energy, Mines, and somebody. I did not see that one letter.
Sorry, what's that? Oh, just the letter regarding the
Oh,
yes.
And it's that.
The referral is not required, but Daniel can speak more to that.
okay, thanks, Dan. And over to you, Daniel, on this one.
So the site alteration bylaw 568 was read a second and third time at council meeting July 11th, 2022. And council for the bylaw of the Ministry of Energy, Mines and Low Carbon Innovation. And so the minister responded September 6th that bylaw 568 regulates but does not prohibit the deposit of removal and deposit of soil. So ministry approval is not required. That wasn't clear to me in the initial reading of the bylaw prohibits without a permit, so it regulates. And so based on that, staff brought the bylaw back to be reconsidered and finally adopted. But then I also just wanted to flag under the alternatives that as ministry approval is not required, there is ability for council to make minor or to make amendments to bylaw 568. So either minor amendments at the meeting tonight or to refer the bylaw to staff for further information or amendments prior to consideration of adoption. And as long as the bylaw does not outright prohibit deposit or removal of soil. So for example, look at the bylaw, we're at a maximum amount of soil that could be removed. That would be a prohibition with the ministry approval, but otherwise the bylaw could be amended by council prior to adoption. So that's the extent of the presentation. The bylaw itself is unchanged from that meeting. It's just the information on the
So you keep talking about removal of soil. So I guess that's been part of my
Can you put that back up?
sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So is it a site alteration bylaw or just a soil removal bylaw?
It's a site, it's altering the site, so the site alteration.
Yeah. But to me, just removing or adding, well, it's more a soil removal bylaw than it is a site alteration bylaw.
So you're altering the site by taking soil further.
Like altering the grade. That's removal of soil, a little bit of positive soil.
My hang up with it all has been the fact that how much you can remove is all relative to the size of the lot you're dealing with. And yet often until you start doing the site prep, you don't know what you're going to get into. And you're suddenly stuck with having to do all piles of stuff somewhere that means you've got to go and get 4 different site alteration permits.
So council Morse, I mean, that was discussed at committee levels and at council in terms of, do you size the permits based on the amount of soil removal or is it relation to the size of the lot? And so the council discussion was that if you're more concerned about the amount of alteration at all, then that's what you regulate versus relation to the size of the lot. So they did that, 1,000 square feet or whatever it may be of disturbance, it's the same impact on the island if it's on a 10-acre property than if it's on a 1-acre
property. Okay, is there any other discussion on this? Maureen, have you got anything?
Yeah, just a tiny point.
Okay.
Alphabetization, you need to move municipality earlier in the list.
Sorry,
Sorry, what was that again, Maureen?
Sorry, my throat's giving out. Just in the list of definitions, it's out of alphabetical order. You just need to move municipality earlier in the list. Tiny.
Municipalities down above wood waste and after trees, correct?
Okay, thank you.
So it should go between manager and other. Well, unfortunately, I forgot to bring my file. And I noticed that I voted against first, second, and third reading. And there's been no change.
Any further comments here?
Just one point. My concerns about this bylaw, there were several. but one of them had to do with just how it was going to work at a very practical level. And I wonder if we could, as we did with the short-term rental regulations, request a report back to council on how it's going after a set period. Would that be helpful? What do you think?
1 year,
Yeah,
or do you think longer or shorter?
I don't know.
I wonder if you'd even have examples within a year.
Probably more.
Is there would be, so the bylaws are currently drafted, given to January 1st.
Yeah.
So I'm just writing now, it's like the staff, council direct staff to report to council in July of 2023.
In fact, it's only going to have been in place for 6 months at that point.
I mean, based on like starting the business licensing program, I would think after 6 months, we would have initial reporting, and then it would probably be like the business licensing where, you know, we report annually with changes.
Are there any building permits that aren't going to be picked up by this bylaw
Yes.
for housing?
Yeah, so if the site has been prepped as part of the subdivision, then the actual development of the building itself, the house itself, would be required of the subdivision.
Because they got a permit at the site at the subdivision price.
Yeah, so going forward, it would be that it received at that point, or now maybe the case that, you know, current subdivision has created, you know, development ready lot that are then built on.
But you've got an exemption for the size of an excavation. So if the excavation for the house site was bigger,
There's an exemption for the building, like for work done under a building permit, the actual house excavation. So the only like site alteration you do is to the house site itself, and the rest of the, you know, driveway is put in as part of the subdivision, or is already existing, then you wouldn't get a second.
you're going to need a site alteration permit to put a driveway in.
If it involves, yeah, moving dirt, yeah.
And I think my other thing was, what was the definition of removal of trees? Is it just cutting them down, or was it cutting them
Taking
down?
stumps.
It's
And pulling the stumps?
It's pulling the stumps of the complete vegetation.
So you could cut the tree down, but leave the stump, and you wouldn't need one of these site alteration permits.
Or, I mean, given the area, right, if you're taking out a tree and moving the stump, you'd be below the threshold of requiring a permit.
But if you were taking out 20 trees and leaving the stumps. Because fire safety,
Yeah.
30 meters around your house.
But yeah, I think fire smart activities are an exempt activity as well.
Okay, any further discussion?
So I have that, I just drafted that motion. Yeah, it's on the screen so that council directs staff to report to council.
Yeah, perfect.
Maybe by July 2023. I'm sharing it.
Yeah, that'd be good. So that's a year out, eh?
Yeah, so
Basically,
that would, yeah, and it would essentially be 6 months of the bylaw.
Yeah.
Which I think would be good if there's initial, you know, yeah, if there's something wrong, it's like we'd like flag it sooner rather than later.
yes, absolutely. Well, that could happen as it progresses, and you know, all of a sudden, we're going, oh, what's happening here? Yeah, then it could certainly come ahead early. Okay, I'm happy with that. Everybody happy with that July date? Okay, Maureen, can you see that?
Yes, I can. I'm good with the recommendation.
Okay,
Okay, so I don't see an exemption for fire smart activities. But I will go along with it on the basis that we're going to look at July of 2023.
correct. Yeah,
Otherwise, I
okay. Okay, so you want to put that recommendation up there? Yeah, sorry.
We can read it if you like.
Okay.
The bylaw number 568/2022, cited as Bowen Island Municipality Site Alteration Bylaw number 568/2022, be reconsidered and finally adopted.
And that,
And
I was gonna do that as a separate.
no, I wanted the same resolution.
Okay, and then council next staff report to council by July 2023 on the implementation of the site alteration bylaw number 568.
okay, I'll move that. Second, Rob. Any further discussion? Maureen?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Yeah.
Maureen, you're good?
I'm good.
Thank you, okay. All right, we'll move on to staff reports. Development variance permit, DVP 2021-0308, 403 Venture Road, Susan Hogan, request for reapplication. Back to you, Daniel.
Okay, I took a really short overview, essentially just what's in the report. It is an overview of our development procedure bylaw and the local government act in terms of the consideration of an application. So as council knows, July 11th, we considered DVP 10308 and adopted the motion that council not issue development variance permit. Very unanimously. So our development procedure bylaw has a section on reapplication. This is a little tricky hard to read, but 5.32. So if council rejects a permit application, a person must not submit the same application within 6 months. And then 5.33 says an applicant essentially can appeal to council to vary the time limit set out. The applicant must submit in writing a statement as to why the time limit for your application should be varied. And so you have that as part of your agenda package. Right. And then 534 says council may by affirmative vote of at least 2/3 of its members that are eligible to vote on the reapplication allow a person to apply within that time period. And then 535, any reapplication is considered a new application and additional fees will apply. So council motion tonight is not approving the variance at this meeting, but this is approving the applicant to submit a new application for a new variance that would be introduced to council. Would undergo public notification and then be considered by council. And just so as it loops, the local government act has similar language. So if a bylaw establishes a time limit, like Brent says, the time limit may be varied in relation to a specific reapplication by an affirmative vote of at least 2/3 of the local government members eligible to vote on the reapplication.
So 2/3 of those eligible to vote.
Would be 3.
Is it 2/3 of the veteran and the 2/3 of those present?
Well, those present.
I think eligible would have to, if they're not here, they're ineligible.
So it's 2/3 of 7. Because there's only, yes, that's what I was getting at.
So it happened to be.
So it's like a special resolution in a society. What do you mean you're not voting?
No, there's 2 people here that aren't voting on council, so we don't actually have 5.
We have 7 council members and 2/3 of those 7, which is 5, have to approve the early application.
We don't have 2 of them, so just.
So there's 5 of us here, so it means it has to be unanimous vote of the 5 that are here.
Yeah, so I think this would be ineligible to vote if somebody had recused themselves.
Yeah.
Be lowering our number of.
But if somebody's not here, they're not eligible to vote, right? So
No.
It's members of council, not those present. Otherwise, it disenfranchises somebody who's not here, so. Yeah.
Okay, so it would be
Of the total 7, so that would make 5 for a 2/3 vote.
What about a board of variance? Is that available to the applicant? Go to the board of variance then? I mean, that's what the board's for, isn't it? With the hardship, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I think the applicant would be eligible to apply for a variance. So the government act sets out these 2 avenues for variances. Variance permit or the variance, the board can consider minor variances when there's a hardship. And then there's sort of criteria they have to go through in evaluating the application.
Yeah.
So yes, as separate from this, and that, you know, that could be an avenue that would be pursued. I mean, you know, if council at this meeting doesn't waive the delay for reapplication, staff would probably continue to pursue you know, that the buildings come into compliance with the bylaw. So through removal or.
Can you quickly outline what isn't in compliance? Just for the benefit of.
Yeah, I don't have the details in front of me, but essentially they're within the setback. The buildings are within the setback, so either they could be. Could be reduced in size. Yeah, so if it's reduced in size and height, it would be. It would be permitted in the setback. It could be relocated outside of the setback or removed.
Yeah, they could be moved.
So even though the applicant has removed one of the buildings, there's still 3 accessory buildings on the property.
I think.
And the 2 that are by the fence are not within the setbacks. They're too large. One of them is too large. It's over 10 square, whatever, and the other is the height issue.
Yeah.
So. Which I think were largely the reasons we were dealing, turn the stuff down. And if we don't grant the earlier application, then we can wait 6 months and apply again.
Yeah, so in June.
Now, could the applicant apply to board of variance in that period of time?
Yes.
I think everybody's gonna want to get this done with sooner rather than later, so. I don't know why we would want to wait out 6 months. You know, if we want to hear this again, we should vote on it, it's gonna be annoying. And then the applicant knows what's happening as well. They're having to wait 6 months. Possibly then vary, so I think why don't we just see if we see.
And what happened to
If you go back 1 slide.
One more.
All that one.
Yeah.
There we go. Any applications, the new application. Eligible vote on the reapplication, allow a person to reapply within the time period. What we're may well be able to allow here is the individual to apply within the time period, right? And therefore it will be considered to be a new application.
Yeah.
It will still go through the application process and paying the fees. I have to find it not within my heart to actually deny that, because that seems a fair and legitimate process.
Yeah, or make it, either do that or make a choice to go through a certain system.
Can I just ask a question for clarity? Is, tell me how you really feel. Is the application from board, substantive things have changed that make it a new application, or can council just reconsider the exact same application? And I asked that question given Ms. Hogan's comments about how she had made some changes to it. So is it essentially because it's a new application?
This provision is essentially to allow the exact same application to be resubmitted. So at what point is it, well, now it's a different application? Like if somebody said, well, I've moved it 2 inches, now it's a completely different application. You know, I don't know how far down that road to go, but this provision, this vote essentially is to say council can receive the exact same application as they previously considered.
I see.
But why would anyone submit the same application when they've already considered, given it's already been unanimously reviewed? Doesn't make a difference. It's not in their interest to do that.
Different circumstances.
So essentially, this would be council receiving a letter from the applicant, considering it and saying, okay, we would like to have a second, have council have a second consideration of this variance permit, and that's what you'd be deciding tonight to say, yes, we want council to have another look at this application, or no, we want to stand by our earlier decision.
So then if the applicant did come forward and said, hey, I'm gonna make these changes, the window, yada, 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 that would not be in this application comes back.
It could have those changes.
They could.
It's not.
I don't think I know exactly, the nature of how much an application have to change before it's the same, but probably we would consider, like, if this is for a variance to reduce the setbacks for an existing accessory building within the setback. If it's the same building, in the same location, I would be saying it's the same application. Regardless of, like I think tonight Ms. Hogan suggested conditions that could be placed on the permit, that would be part of the permit process in the council. It would be still the same application.
And we could do that with that application and those changes.
But it
On a
doesn't.
new, like a council tonight moved to waive the 6-month period.
Yeah.
The applicant could submit an application for the variance, would be considered by council, and staff could recommend, and the applicant could propose and staff could recommend those conditions on the permit
Okay.
as a condition of the variance.
Thank you, Dan. I would certainly support that.
Yeah, I would, and I'll
But it doesn't really change any of the violations. Would it go through the same process again? Would the community be asked to comment? So
Yeah. Probably nothing's gonna change. Except the council.
Yes, it would be a new council, but given the timing of the received application today, it's introduced.
Yeah. Well, to Michael's point, I think that's a fair to give Susan another shot.
Sorry, this, Councillor Nicholson's handed up.
Yes, sorry, morning.
Yeah. If this were to come back to council in substantively the same form, I'm not sure that there would be any different conclusion.
No, there will be a different council.
It will be a different council, true enough. Which introduces another element of uncertainty. It seems to me, based on the correspondence that we have from Mrs. Hogan, that her position is one of hardship, and that the Board of Variance may in fact be an appropriate recourse where she could, is my understanding, initiate that application without a 6-month waiting period, and avoid the going through a process with council again that I think regardless of which council would result in the same conclusion.
Well, I think that would be the more appropriate route to go personally.
And there were some comments in her letter about not being aware that she could come and speak to the variance application, and just some uncertainty about the procedures. I wonder if reaching out to her and explaining what the differences would be in some detail between going to Board of Variance, coming back to council, and what the respective timelines might be as far as what's in front of us. Well, I'll hold off on saying anything about that. My thoughts.
Okay, thank you.
I would support Councillor Nicholson said what we're trying to do here is find the simplest, most direct, straightforward, least complicated process for this applicant to make their case with such changes as they intend to make. So Daniel, if they go to the Board of Variance, this is a quicker, more direct route for the applicant.
the difference with the Board of Variance, I guess, is you don't end up with anything registered on title, right?
Right, yeah, you have the board.
So to Michael's point, that's exactly what I was gonna ask.
I mean, and yes, the board would be considering it sooner than the new council would be considering.
Would it be fair to ask the applicant what direction that they would like to go on that?
I don't understand a lot of what you said. I just don't understand it.
Well, I understand that.
Back again in 6 months. Should I make some of the changes that I've said, or should I leave it as it is? I just don't understand. It's being asked.
Well, I think if you made some changes, it would obviously be a better application because it couldn't be any worse than the last one, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So that's your choice. Either do that and they'll will reduce the time probably may reduce the timeline on it. Or the other one is to go to Board of Variance, which will be a little bit quicker, but a totally different process.
I think the only
I
would be the putting the covenant on, and that would be a condition of the issue.
if we would, council would control them.
So council would have the word on that. It would appear that going to expedite this to the Board of Variance would appear, even to the very point the council wants to just brought up, the most direct way, probably move it along, would support that direction. And also to give the applicants some certainty. Because if what they don't want to do is start messing around and doing some stuff at cost, only to find out some stuff wasn't enough. And therefore the effort was wasted.
Yeah.
So, and then no one is satisfied. No one is.
The sun stuff does not solve any of the.
Exactly.
Setback infractions, height
Exactly.
infractions or anything else.
Exactly.
No, and I think that was the impetus of our vote last time. And if that doesn't change, I don't think our decision on this council will change. It will be a different council. And there's no question of that. So that just leaves it up in the air for what's going to happen. I would like to give the applicant another chance at this. I think that's only fair. And I think if we reduce the 6 months here, if we were to do that, then she can wait for that, or she can apply. She can get some words of wisdom from some people and see if she wants to apply for the Board of Variance. Meanwhile, speed up the process.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is we can pass this.
We're just gonna give-
the options.
It's going to give her some options.
Okay.
We just received the report for information.
There's a motion that Daniel had up that and the council waive the 6-month delay for reapplication for DBP 2021-0308.
Council, sorry.
That was-
Council waive the
Wait,
6 months.
yes, wait, thank you, yes. I was, if someone would propose it, I would say.
Okay, you see that recommendation? Are you,
Yeah.
are you moving that?
I'll move that.
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Mayor, second.
That was that's a person.
Question.
So if we wait this timeline, does she still have the choice to go to the
Yeah.
Board of Variance?
Yes, this wouldn't require her to apply. This is council giving permission for her to.
Okay, thank you, Maureen. Can you see the recommendation?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. So any further discussion? Okay, I'll ask a question. All in favor? Aye. To Allison,
Well,
3.
it's allowing her to have an appeal, but I don't, at this point, I don't feel that there would be any change in the decision if it came to this council.
It's not coming to this council. It's coming to the next council. So how do you vote, Allison?
Well, Maria, go.
You voted in favor.
Okay,
Okay, so it's,
yeah, it's an appeal process. Well,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, absolutely. And this gives her the option of voting.
To confirm you are opposed.
No,
It's an appeal process, so I'm saying, okay, she can appeal.
Well, you didn't put your hand up, so I'll just confirm you.
Sorry.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, then we're going to move on to 7.2, which is approval of change orders for completion of the multi-use path and storm pipe replacement projects. Patrick Graham, Director of Engineering.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, I'm in my car. This is the best office I can do, unfortunately. So there obviously there's a couple of projects that everyone really wants to have completed as soon as possible. We've been doing our best to achieve that. We do have some decent pricing from BEA Blacktop, who did the multi-use path work at the end of 2021 and earlier this year. That work was obviously put on hold because of the instability of the road. We tackled the replacement of the storm project with BIM as general contractor, which has gone very well. Now we need to finish that job and pave the multi-use path, finish that as well. we've got with the prices here. They're divided up by project because of the multi-use path being a grant funded project. And we're well within the grant funding amounts for that project. We expect to still have a portion to apply to the next piece that we advance, and we'll be talking about that at the next meeting. And then for the storm replacement project, installing a new curb, and that's proven to be the most difficult. Getting somebody to do that anytime soon seems to be a challenge right now for some reason. But they're able to do that from the starting on the 11th and hopefully being done by the end of October. And we'll reopen the North Lane on Trunk Road and open the whole multi-use path from Cardina to Artisan in November, or as soon as that's all done. So the recommendation is that, yes, with the amount of the change orders, we're looking for council to approve that. And if there's any questions about any of the information I've discussed or is in the staff report, we can talk about that too.
And I actually did sort of, if the multi-use path paving is just a minor increase over what the original whole project would have cost, so that's good.
I think the key line of this is the projected unspent storm sewer project budget. Wow, something else.
Well,
okay.
as just earlier when we were budgeting, there was a lot of uncertainty, and we got some pricing from contractors that are going to price in that uncertainty. And certainly, things could have gone sideways. I think the municipal staff did a really good job on preventing anything from happening, and essentially doing it for 60% less. And that's something that we'll do more of in the future.
No, that's really good news.
So I'm quite willing to move the recommendation that council direct staff to proceed with 2 change orders to the existing contract between them and Eurovia BA Blacktop to complete 2 projects, 82,356. Oh, that's before or after GST? That's not with GST, right?
That's not with GST. No, that's
82,356 to complete the multi-use path between Cardina Drive and Miller Road, and 227,186 to complete the Bowen Island Trunk Road storm pipe replacement project, curb installation and paving.
Second that. Let's see, recommendation of that. Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, I just like to thank Patrick for bringing this to us and for bringing things in. Not only well under budget. It's nice to see this. Sometimes I think when people see change orders on a council agenda, they think, oh, these are added costs over and above what we've already budgeted. These costs are included in our budget, and the work that, as you said, the work that Public Works has done has really helped with the storm pipe replacement. So thank you very much for some good news on the financial front.
Yeah, great work on that. Thank you.
And also just again to kind of draw attention to to draw attention to the decision that council was faced with during the budget, whether to include the addition of that 1 extra FTE in the Public Works Department.
Yeah.
So the inclusion of that is enabling them to self-perform some of this work. So for all of that labor, I think everybody in the community saw them working out there. It came in at about $40,000 in total in labor, and that was overtime and everything. So I think that's really dollars well spent.
Yeah, thank you. Oh, that's great. Congratulations all the way around. Yeah, okay, I'll ask a question.
I'll just make a final comment too, because I've been pretty up on this project for a number of these reasons. So I hope the councillors that don't come back get Because November, that's past the election. I do want to be at the ribbon cutting, so.
First bite out the trail.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great, no, in favor. Lori?
Oh, in favor.
Thank you. Okay, that is unanimous. Thank you, Patrick. Great job. Okay, move on to 7.3, which is a development variance permit DVP 2022-0065, 1724 Bowen Bay Road, Lake Lake Buddy to talk, Natasha Chong. The planner, Natasha, how are you?
Good, thanks. Hope everyone's doing well. I'll just share my screen here. All right, everyone can see the screen?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so as mentioned, I'm here to present the staff report for the introduction of development variance permit application 20220065 at 1724 Bowen Bay to reduce both a rear setback and the setback to the sea to accommodate the development of a primary dwelling. So the subject land in question, 1724 Bowen Bay, is located just south of Bowen Bay Beach and is directly adjacent to the Bowen Bay Marina properties. So to further contextualize its location, it's approximately northwest of the municipality's Evergreen Park and is south of Malkin Creek. The land parcel is approximately 0.63 hectares, so 1.55 acres in size, and is located in the Settlement Residential 2B zone, which is a variation that, in addition to allowing dwelling as a primary use, it also permits marina parking, boat storage, and fuel storage as primary uses. I should note that this land parcel was a part of a lot line adjustment subdivision in 2020. And as per the subdivision approval, a strip of the foreshore was retained by the neighboring parcel, 1730 Bowen Bay, which is the marina, for the retention of the existing wharf and continued use of the group moorage facility by Bowen Bay Marina. So as such, 1724 Bowen Bay has both an easement and a covenant agreement in relation to the foreshore area. So now onto the variance. As mentioned by the property owner, Gina Lararowich, in the public comments, the lot was purchased in 2021 and the new owners recently demolished the pre-existing dwelling, which is highlighted in yellow, and had an existing non-conforming sea setback of approximately 7.5 meters. I'll note that from the information provided by the applicant, the subject parcel has a neighboring average sea setback of 15 meters, which is shown as the red line on the site plan. So in light of the approximate 7.5 existing non-conforming sea setback, the applicant is requesting the same 7.5 sea setback, which is highlighted as the blue line. However, the siting of the proposed dwelling, which is highlighted in the red, is not the same as the original building, and consequently, a variance application is required. And in addition to the 7.5 sea setback variance, the applicant is also requesting a rear setback variance from 7.5 meters to 5.18 meters to accommodate a 2.32 meter roof overhang. So next, I've just included a few drawings of the elevations of the proposed dwelling, along with a proposed secondary suite drawing. Now, I've included the secondary suite drawing simply for reference. However, this building is outside the 15-meter sea setback and hence does not require a variance. All right. So the next two slides are photos from a site visit to hopefully help everyone gauge the variance request. So as you'll see in the first photo, the site visit occurred before the owners demolished the pre-existing building, as the initial building is still standing. The second photo is to help contextualize the rationale behind the variance, which shows there are potential topographic challenges near the front of the lot line if the proposed dwelling were to be sited further back outside of the sea setback. Next, here are some photos to the north and south of the subject land, showing Bowen Bay Beach and the marina, along with an approximate area of where the western easement is. And given you can see the original building in the second photo, this will also hopefully help paint a picture of the original sea setback. However, just as a reminder, they are shifting the siting further back than the displayed building in this photo. So to conclude, the applicant is requesting a 7.5 meter sea setback and rear setback of 5.18 meters to accommodate the construction of a primary dwelling. The main reasons provided for the proposed siting and requested variances are: 1, site constraints due to the topography; 2, they're utilizing the existing non-conforming setback, which has been verified by a structural engineer in environmental consultation to support the proposed development siting; and 3, the applicant has stated the building site will not be visible to neighboring residences. That being said, I'll also add that absent a variance, the applicant could potentially construct a new dwelling outside of the sea setback. However, the applicant states to do so would involve significant blasting and complex groundwork given the site topography, which was also shown in one of the previous site photos, which we can take a look if anyone has questions after the presentation. Also at this time, staff have received 4 letters of support, which were presented as on-table items from neighboring properties. So in light of this, we are recommending that the application be considered by council at the October 11th meeting, and that further notice be given to the adjacent properties within 100 meters of the subject land. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Natasha. Great presentation. Could you put that map back on just with that?
Sure.
Yeah, it's quite clear that that house is actually going further back, almost further back, just that one end there from the water, which I think is great.
And where's the rear lot line?
So the rear lot line is the black.
The one you got the 30 meter line?
It's right here. The rear lot line. Can you see my cursor?
Yep, over here, Allison.
Oh, I thought that was the seaside. Okay.
No, so they have an easement. It's a little tricky, this one, because there is an easement at the foreshore. Their property line ends and then the high water mark is further back.
Can we have, are you going to organize a site visit?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, we can organize a site visit for council if that's something that is of interest.
I think it's pretty straightforward, really.
Don't ask me.
And those of us that want to go.
Yeah, we'd be happy to organize.
Yeah. Mike's really good at putting little orange around.
Any further comments on this? I mean, it's just for the issuance of maybe going forward to the next step, and you can organize a site visit for anybody that wants it.
Reading it down?
Do you want me to read it or?
Just, well, let's put the other one up. I mean, it was quite adequate. There you go.
Oh, I can read that.
Sure.
That notice be given that TPP 2022-0065 will be considered by council at its meeting on October 11th. That council authorized staff to give notice in accordance with S499 of the LGA to properties within 100 meters of 1724 Bowen Bay Road, legally described as Lot B, Block 8, District Lot 492, Group 1, New Westminster, District Plan EPP 90794, and then PID 031 318 525. I'll move that.
Thank you, Robin, seconded.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Maureen?
No.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That passes unanimously. Move along. Certainly a better looking house on the future.
Maybe the stars are aligned, good owners, good architects, and good neighbors. It doesn't always happen, so it's possible.
They called it the Pirate's House. You're welcome.
Hey, we're gonna move on to the development variance permit, DD.
Hi, guys.
40189 72 Woods Road.
Great.
Jason Zavitz, and over back to you, Natasha. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so as mentioned, next up, we have another DVP application for 1672 Woods Road, DVP 2022-0189, to reduce the C setback for the development of a primary dwelling and an accessory carport. The subject parcel is located adjacent to Grafton Bay in the northeastern area or region of the island and is south of Honeymoon Creek and west of Honeymoon Lake. The property is 0.15 hectares and approximately 0.37 acres in size and is zoned settlement residential 2. It's currently vacant as the original dwelling, which had a non-conforming or existing non-conforming setback of 13 meters, was demolished in 2007. So here we have the site plan showing the siting of the proposed primary dwelling, which is highlighted in yellow. And from the information provided by the applicant, the parcel has an average neighboring sea setback of 22.3 meters, which is shown as the blue line. Given the previous non-conforming setback, the applicant is similarly requesting the same sea setback of 13.1 meters, which is shown in red. Now, the rationale provided for the proposed siting and requested variance is 1, similarly site constraints due to topography. 2, the site location is the same as the pre-existing house and has been verified by a geotechnical engineer to support the proposed development. And 3, the proposed building site will maintain ocean sightlines of neighboring properties. And at this time of the presentation, staff have received 1 letter in support from a neighbor, which was presented as an on-table agenda item.
I thought you got a letter.
Sorry, Allison?
I thought the letter I read this afternoon was not.
Marina Pratchett.
I'll have to go back.
I can go back and then I'll confirm with you, Allison.
Nellie Graham. No,
There were a couple letters of different variance applications that were submitted as on-table.
The one received on table from Marina Pratchett, it was in support of this application.
Okay, yeah, fine, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, sorry, continue.
That's okay.
Sorry.
It's all good. And so here we have a drawing of the proposed dwelling along with the carport. And from our calculations, the applicant is within their permitted lot coverage for all buildings and the covered deck. The next 4 slides are site photos. So the site visit has already been conducted to help inform council's decision. So as shown on this slide, this is a view looking west from the road where the proposed building would be seen. And so I've highlighted it within the red box. And then to help determine neighbor impact, here are photos of both the neighbors to the south and the north. And as you will see, the southern property has a mature tree kind of boundary as a privacy boundary, while the northern neighbor does not. There's also a retaining wall that was built by the previous owners and is located approximately 7.5 meters from the high water mark. The applicant will not be modifying the retaining wall nor the structures below it.
Okay.
And then finally, this is the view where the accessory carport building is proposed to be sited.
Like the solar panels.
Everybody's going to be putting those on.
Yeah. So moving on to potential alternatives. There is an alternative area or potential alternative area outside of the property's 22.3 meter sea setback, which is just southeast of the proposed siting. That would not require a variance, which could potentially accommodate the same size of the dwelling. However, the applicant has maintained that this is an unsuitable location given the proximity of the septic field. This location, they've said, could also impact neighbor sightlines to the oceans and would require tree removal. I will note that there is no viable alternative siting for the proposed accessory carport that would not require a variance because shifting the siting further outside the sea setback would actually encroach into the 7.5 meter front lot line setback. And then just to help contextualize it, here's a site visit photo of the approximate location of the alternative siting.
It would require blasting, wouldn't it?
They would have to, yeah, they would have to do some work.
All right.
And then, yeah, just to conclude, although an alternative location has been presented, the applicant has stated, as I mentioned, that the siting would alter natural surrounding landscapes, require tree removal, and possibly impact neighboring views. So as such, we are recommending the DBP move forward with a consideration date of October 11th, and that public notice be given pertaining to the state as well. So.
All right, thank you. Can you put back the ortho one with the just the overview?
The or for
the first one, I think it was almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just looking at where those other houses are, and I can't see that like the direct neighboring houses are going to be almost the same amount from the sea. I don't know why that variance seems to be so large, because they're just hanging over the water too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I can see that retaining wall. So is there a plan to build right up to that retaining wall with the decks? That's what it looked like.
Yes. So
yeah, okay. Yeah, that one there.
Yeah. So the retaining wall is just below.
It's high bank waterfront. The house itself is only 900 square feet. So it's that's it. Yeah, it's tiny.
Okay, that's good.
Tiny house. Yeah. Yeah.
And not a lot of site disturbance, and we just passed a site alteration bylaw, which is to discourage site disturbance.
Thank you. You want to put back that
Resolution.
the recommendations?
Sure.
Thank you, Natasha. Sorry. So I will read the recommendation as it notice be given to that VVP 2022-01890 be considered by council at its meeting of October 11th, 2022, and the council will authorize staff to give notice in accordance with section 499 of the LGA to properties within 100 meters of 1672 Woods Road, legally described as Lot 4, Block 1, District Lot 2985, Plan 8111, PID 0102333903. I will move that. Second to Michael. Any further discussion, Maureen?
No.
Okay, I'll ask a question. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Maureen.
All right.
Thank you. Site visit?
No.
Okay, I'll just go for a drive.
You don't want that.
It's lovely. I'll move on to correspondence, which is without a consent agenda, and so are the committees, commissions, and new business. Move to a closed meeting, and the recommendation is that council move to a closed council meeting immediately following the adjournment of the special council meeting to discuss items pursuant to section 90-1E and J. Burner, I'll move that. Second, over to Rob, and all in favor. Aye. Maureen. Maureen.
Aye.
Thank you. So that is unanimous, and section 11 is the adjournment. And that's at 8:10 and it's 8:18, so we didn't do too bad.
Gary, I was just wondering, maybe do we need to do this item in light of the David and Sue Ellen and Liam are all not here tonight? It might be better.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to deter you, I'm just thinking,
Is it just an info piece?
we're just gonna have to go back around.
It's just an info piece, right?
No, yeah, it was kind of an update, yeah.
Well, now that you got it there, you got me curious.
Anyway,
Well, just as
stop, please.
Oh, you-
Anything